What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll take a peek over here at the Bitcoin price chart. We'll look at the altcoin market. And while today is the first actual trading day for the United States stock market, so I think it's interesting to see how are stocks opening and reacting to the new year starting. The legacy markets just opened within the last half of an hour, and we've seen a lot of volatility already start right here in the first 30 minutes. So I figured we'd take a peek over there at it. We've even seen some interesting price action over here in crypto. We've seen a lot of green. Now we're starting to see some red emerge as the markets start to open. So this video will bounce around a little bit. We'll start out by taking a peek over there at the Dow Jones Industrial Average and looking at the broader markets for the first few minutes. And then we'll tie ourselves back into crypto just to have a big understanding of how the year is starting out as we do start the new year for crypto with the total market cap back at its previous all-time high from 2017, 2018, and on that last fib level for the total market cap. So we'll start out by looking over there at the Dow and then work our way back into crypto. As the Dow Jones Industrial Average opened, it popped up 269 points there within the first 15 minutes. Ever since then, has now taken it all back. We've seen decent moves over here in metals to start out the new year. And when it comes to treasury bonds, we're seeing relatively flat to up on short-dated bills and negative action over here on long-dated bonds. So relatively up for your short stuff like your 6-month, your 2-month, and your 1 month, but down on your longer stuff like the 30-year, 20-year, and the one we've spent some serious time on, the 10-year over here, which you can see the 10 years after getting back within the previous federal funds rate there of 3.75 to 4%, now back down below that 3.75 at 3.73 to start the year out. Stocks are totally a mixed bag at about flat after about 30 minutes of the market opening. But like we said, some serious action happening here in just the first 30 minutes, which Bitcoin follows right along with, grinding up all morning in pre-market. And then as markets open, a little bit of a pop up and boom, right back down with stocks. Of course, zoom out on that and not quite as dramatic as when you zoom in like that, but kind of an idea of just how the market is reacting right out the gates to start the new year. Zooming out on the Dow Jones, of course, a move of 250 points to the upside and then a move of 300 points to the downside isn't setting the tone or the trend for the entire year. But I think the bigger question for like the stock market, right? And does that impact the cryptocurrency market? But like looking at the Dow Jones and saying, well, what is the story going to be for the Dow Jones this year and for the stock market? And of course, I've shown time and time again how you can go into retracement levels and that ends up being it. That is the end of the story. Then the gig is up. The issue is everybody wants to know about time. How long is it going to take? When's it going to happen, right? And absolutely nothing about charts will ever predict time for you. You could essentially head all the way back here and then head up and have a C leg and then eventually roll over. And that can take, a year, 2 years, or end of the world, as we've been seeing happening over here for Tesla. But of course, I have no way to, with 100% certainty, predict what will actually happen with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, except to say that every time this structure has happened that I have seen, this has marked the actual top. What are some of the conflictions with that? Is that if we look at how high the Dow Jones has actually gone, it has come up shy of a 4.236 extension. Is there ever an example of where we can go back into retracement levels like this, meander, fall again, then go on and hit it, and then go into lights out? Sure, that's exactly how Bitcoin did it, right? Bitcoin's 2020 and 21 bull run came up shy of the 4.236 extension, fell, retraced. After going back into that retracement, where did it get to? Just about the 702 Fibonacci retracement. Markets pulled back with an ABC in here to then go on and have its final extension to reach out and touch that 4.236. Then the lights went out. So if you look at historical context of what happens at these retracement levels, which is what we talked about for all of 2022, is to finally get back in there. Once you get back in there, that's where everything gets really complicated on what's going to come in next. If I had to make my best guess of every scenario I can come up with, it would still be that there's still more down action to happen here in the Dow Jones for the stock market. But then once we got down in there to see how the market reacts from here, does it start setting itself up like we've seen where it goes to hit that extension? Does it really just plow through these levels and head lower? Or do we start making a structure that starts to look like an ABC correction that still tops itself out in here to then roll over? But right now, it's still just kind of like waiting for this thing to, whether it's got to pop up and then come down or come down and then go up. every scenario I can come up with still says that we head down some more here in the Dow Jones. Question is, will crypto follow along? Ever since the FTX collapse happened, in which crypto broke away from the stock market as this occurred, in topping structures of markets, especially like we've seen in the cryptocurrency market in the past, these are the levels where lots of rotational plays can happen in markets. So we're talking about all this stuff happening in the opening bell of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I'm just not super convinced that even if we went up 300 or 400 points, 500 points, or if we go down 300, 400 points, that it really makes a whole big difference on what the tone of the whole year will be. I think the tone of the whole year actually gets set once we kind of pull back a little bit further in the Dow, and then we get more of a clear picture on where to head to from there. And if you want an example of why those first couple of days can be misleading, we can just look back to 2020 and 2021 to see that when the new year began in 2022, so last year, right? Here's the first day of the year, big up. Here's the second trading day of the year, gaps up, big up. Then the third trading day, that was it. Game over for the rest of the year. So the first 2 days didn't actually give us a big clue. As a matter of fact, we were setting brand new all-time highs. Really, the second trading day of the year, brand new all-time high. And then third day, we all know the story of how it went for the rest of the year. So whatever happens in these first couple of days can be a little bit misleading. I still stick to what the bigger picture is, in that we've seen that we've gone back into retracements. This is where things get very complicated. This is where profits get taken in markets. Every scenario I can come up with still says we have to pull back a little bit further down here in the Dow. And then once we get further down in the Dow, we can start drawing out, well, what next? So I'll save that for another time. My point being is whatever happens in these first couple of days right here in the Dow, I don't think it tells us the real story. I think the real story actually comes from a little bit lower. But of course, my bias is that the crypto market has been punished a whole lot more than the stock market. And if anything, there's more of a catch-up game to happen over here for the crypto markets, as the total market cap of crypto still sits at that last retracement level, still sits back there at that all-time high from 2017 and early 2018. And that 2018, actually just looking at that, that was kind of an interesting time too, right? You see that that's the first week of January. Everything is all sunshines and rainbows, and then suddenly turns over to start the new year. So where are we at right now? Everything is gloom and doom, right? Still hope and optimism, a big reversal can happen in here, and that 2023 is a much better year than 2022 for the crypto markets, at least. But there's been some action over there in the crypto market. So I figure we'll take a look at some of these different altcoins that are out there, some of the things that I'm seeing on different altcoins throughout the market. I spent yesterday's video really diving into the XRP price chart. I still feel good about what we saw happen over here a couple of days ago in the evening time. I think I really spent the majority of yesterday's video diving into this, so we're not going to talk too much about this. I also spent a couple minutes at the end talking about Hoo-Hoo. A lot of you guys had a lot to say on that. Thanks. It's been a huge celebration in this house. But as for XRP, we'll kind of, we won't spend too much time on it today. As for yesterday, really, we just talked about, hey, the whole structure of how this is all played out. That would be like, for those who were there back in 2020, it's like your 22.5-cent wick that just went down and crushed it. Now things can just kind of really tame out and just wait for a bigger move to eventually erupt, which is what I'm looking for. One of the interesting ones has been Solana moving up drastically. I believe Solana's up over 60% in just the last couple of days after this big fall that happened right back in here. It's up 68% right now as I'm recording this video. I did accumulate some Solana, crazy as that sounds. I know, I get it. All the network halts that happened throughout 2022. The price is just so absolutely hammered with so much FUD. I decided to take a shot at it. I know that just a couple of days ago, it was pretty much down and out, counted for dead. Then Vitalik Buterin came in, made a comment, said, some smart people tell me there's an earnest, smart developer community in Solana. And now that the awful opportunistic money people have been washed out, the chain has a bright future. Hard for me to tell from the outside, but I hope the community gets its fair chance to thrive. Man, with 36,000 likes in there. We saw the price of Solana definitely U-turn right at that moment. I think you can pretty much see the moment that tweet. Yeah. Actually, it was right back over here. You can see the moment that ended up happening in there. And it was pretty much a social media frenzy to trash talk Solana at that time. It was pretty crazy. So when he came out with that tweet, it was in the thick of pretty much Solana being a laughing stock over there on Twitter. I definitely felt like a dummy. This is one of the coins that I've been accumulating during the depths of these moments right in here. I was like, oh, yeah, I should have known better. That was a dumb decision. The reason I'm going with that idea It was really because this is exactly what Ethereum looked like back in 2018 when the ending came in there. So Solana's down a whopping like 97% or something off here. Yeah, 97% down off of the heights that happened in there. Ethereum was down over 94% at this point in 2018. People wouldn't believe that that could happen to Ethereum. It absolutely did. I remember buying it for less than $100. I remember just nibbling at it too. Of course, I wish I had gone much heavier than I did back then, but I remember just taking little tiny nibbles at it, like $150 of it here, $200 of it there. I remember getting more than 2 Ethereum for less than $200 and being like, that's it. That's all I'm willing to risk on this. This thing is dead. This is when, the ICO sell-offs are all happening. The FUD is just out of control on Ethereum. So took a little shot over here at Solana. We'll see how that ends up paying off. Definitely don't follow me blindly into that one. I've been lucky to not get caught in the crossfire of any of these things collapsing on themselves, like the FTT token, Luna, or UST, as I've never owned any of those tokens. But if there's one of them where I'm kind of like, gosh, this one, it makes me a little uncomfortable being in it, it's Solana. And the only reason for those feelings that I have about that was simply how involved Sam Bankman-Fried was with this token. The reason why I have some hope and some optimism about it is because this community is so ridiculously huge. They hold Twitter spaces. They don't care. And the thing that I learned a big lesson about in 2021 and 2020 was that if you don't have a giant community attached to something, it's hard for it to gain any traction. And this community is not gone. These people are still here and loud and proud. So I've accumulated anywhere between 10 to 15 different altcoins. That's just one of them. That represents a very small portion of what I've actually been adding. But obviously, it's one of the biggest movers, so we're talking about it today. As for looking at Bitcoin and looking at Ethereum, the things we've been looking at as we were wrapping up last year was getting off the top of that resistance level there for Ethereum. The story was the exact same for Bitcoin. Pulling down, we were looking for volatility to dry up and for us to just go that way. We're still continuing to do that, and these things can go on for a little while. So I'm glad to say at least it's doing this still. As I've shown in lots of the examples, these things can go on for some time in here. Still just a waiting game over here on Ethereum, which has been one of the ones that has held up the strongest in all of this downturn, has been Ethereum in here. As for Bitcoin, it's doing exactly the same thing, and nothing has changed in regards to just traveling sideways as we've been anticipating. If this is the phase that I'm hoping that we're in within this market, it will just kind of continue doing this. And when these things end, they end in dramatic fashion. It does not usually end with, hey, we just kind of keep grinding our way up here really slowly. It ends with something quick happening. So until that, interpreting anything going on with Bitcoin as it's just traveling around in here, still just a waiting game, but also the things that we were talking about for the last several weeks, expecting that it would just be a boring, grinding time. The good news is it's doing it. So that's what we were kind of hoping for, right? Those are the favorable things that happen in these types of structures that do break up. So as long as we're still just kind of grinding along here, cool. So what are we seeing now that the new year has started? And we're now a couple hours into the trading day. Couple of favorable things for a bottom coming in on some of the altcoins. Still ranging happening here in the Dow Jones Industrial Average that has gone on for about 3 weeks. The total market cap still continues to hold the previous all-time high while on top of the last fib level. We're waiting for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the market to give us an answer after having the pullback and going sideways that we were looking for. And while it would have been interesting to see something happen right out the gates for the market to give us a directional choice for the year, many times those first couple of days don't really give it to us. So overall, what are we seeing so far as the new year has begun? We've seen some pops in Solana. I've seen some interesting price action in XRP that can historically mark a bottom. We know the crypto market, the altcoin market, and the total market sit right there at those all-time highs. The stock market has been wishy-washy this morning, a couple hundred points up, couple hundred points down. And we do know in past years, sometimes the first few days of the new year don't give us a very clear directional choice. So we'll sit there kind of on the edges of our seats, seeing that those all-time highs from 2018 do continue to hold and waiting for price action to play out. Otherwise, outside of like Tesla continuing to have its bubble pop and potentially Apple starting its, not a whole lot going on out there in the market except for kind of a mixed day. So we'll see if things pick up direction later this week. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one. So that's going to be it for today. Happy New Year. Happy first trading day of the year. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.